All right, so let's talk a little bit about Nintendo and the next 8 to 12 months and why that's actually going to be very pivotal for them as we are in the back half of the Switch's life. There's now more and more data that's suggesting that the sales momentum for the hybrid system is actually slowing for them, and depending on what they're going to be doing here, working into 2023, could have a serious impact on the Switch overall. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. And if you're new to the Spawn Wave Plus channel, make sure you subscribe down below. So first of all, it's not too surprising to think that a system that sold over 111 million units could start to slow in terms of sales. It's kind of expected because you start to run out of people to sell to, especially since the system hasn't had any meaningful update or refresh when it comes to the hardware itself and what games it'd be able to play or resolution or frame rate, any of that. A lot of the stuff we've had have been more on the cosmetic side of things. You can make a case for the OLED display making handheld gameplay different and better, but for the most part, the games, they run the same, whether it's a Switch Lite, an original Switch, or the Switch OLED model. Essentially, there's nothing that's must-have about anything Nintendo's done with the Switch after its original model. You could be playing that original model from 2017 now, and you'd still be getting the same experience, especially when it comes to the docked gameplay. So as we are working into 2023, we are starting to see sales momentum slow. We had talked about the NPD reports in Newswave earlier today and how it appears that the Switch is even falling behind the Xbox Series when it comes to revenue. Not necessarily number of systems sold, but because the Xbox has a $500 SKU on the market. Obviously, if the numbers are closer when it comes to units sold, you would see the Xbox bring in more revenue, and the NPD typically tracks based on revenue. So they will at times break things up a bit by units sold, just to give an idea as to how close things are. But if you just go by revenue, technically the Switch would be in last place for the NPD, which is not normal because we've seen the Switch basically be first place NPD for years on end. But now Sony is starting to find PlayStation 5s, be able to put them together and ship them out. In fact, what's interesting about the chip shortage situation, because that's something people bring up a lot, it's stock stuff and all this, I don't believe that's the case anymore. It's very easy to find a Switch if you want one. You go to the store, they're in stock everywhere. You go on Amazon right now, I can have one in 12 hours. Right to my door. A Switch Lite, an OLED, a red box, doesn't matter. So what we're seeing right now, and this is going to sound really funny, we're going to be going from a chip shortage situation to, get this, a chip surplus situation. In fact, there are talks that NVIDIA, the stock when it comes to their 4000 series cards is going to be almost overwhelming for them. Yeah, so putting these systems together isn't going to be as difficult as it's been over the past couple of years. In fact, in 2023, I think you're just going to find PS5s, Xbox Series systems in stores without any problem. You'll be able to walk into a Best Buy and just pick up a PS5 if you want it. And in fact, some people have already been putting images up on Twitter and other social media platforms, just seeing 10 or 15 PS5s behind the glass at a Walmart or anything. So it's already kind of starting up. I do think the holidays with the demand there will probably work to soak up a lot of that supply. But heading into 2023 and Sony's next fiscal year, there have been some reports going around that they may shoot for some ridiculous number of PS5 systems, talking 25 to 30 million systems that Sony would try to ship out. And a lot of that has to do with them trying to make up for lost supply that they were not able to create in the first couple of years for the system, so that they're able to maybe outpace the PS4 at some point. But essentially what I'm trying to say is Nintendo shouldn't have an issue doing something new with the Switch or moving on to the next generation platform. That's kind of the crossroads they're at right now. They are seeing sales momentum drop. For example, if you see here, we just talked to NPD, but if you go to Japan, which obviously Nintendo's biggest market, they basically account for 95% of sales just about in Japan outright. Games, box sales, system sales, you name it. We can see the Famitsu, this is over on Install Base Forum, where they'll kind of track them with line charts to make it a bit easier to compare, but essentially the black line here is Switch 2022. Above that, we have 2021 as the purple, and then 2020 as the yellow, with 2019 as green. And we're kind of seeing the overall sales momentum be down from the previous 2 years. And again, it's not surprising. There just aren't as many people who are looking for a Switch since they've sold so many in Japan, but also all around the world. And this sort of reminds me of Shintaro Furukawa, how he pointed out the transition from the Wii to the Wii U wasn't great because they waited too long to go to the Wii U. They had this monstrous success with the Wii for about 4 years where they were unstoppable, but then it fell off a cliff. And they didn't react in time with the sales momentum that was slowing. I don't know if they thought that it would pick back up or it wouldn't fall off so much. It did, though, and they were sort of stuck. They pivoted to the Wii U probably faster than they wanted because the core concept is really what they were shooting for with the Switch, but the technology wasn't there, so they end up with the Wii U. And unfortunately, they had to kind of grit and bear it for about 4 years before the Switch showed up, and then they were off to the races again. So to me, this is a moment where Nintendo has to decide what they're going to do before it ends up like a Wii situation where the momentum falls off so much that it's not going to say impossible to recover from, but it would be harder than if they did a revision or if they really wanted to break away from this and go to a full next generation successor. I still think there is life in the Switch brand, and I would be shocked if Nintendo didn't realize this either, because you feel like they could do some sort of new Nintendo Switch, Switch Pro, whatever. We're going to go into the 7th year of the system. Most people can look around and say, hey, you know what, this Switch has had a great run. What do you have for us next that's not just an OLED model or a Switch Lite? It makes sense that you would start to consider that and try to sell people the system all over again. Let's be real. That's what they want to do. Any more meaningful upgrade outside of the screen or it being a handheld-only system would probably compel more people to go out and take a look. And hey, if they do keep this generation moving along with some sort of refresh, yeah, the Switch could absolutely end up becoming the best system ever in terms of sales. It could definitely pass the DS or the PS2, but with its current trajectory, even in Japan where Splatoon 3 exploded up the sales charts, I mean, massive sales, didn't really push up Switch sales as much as I was expecting. And again, a lot of that's just because people don't necessarily need to go buy a Switch anymore when they want the latest game. They already have 1, 2, or even 3 systems at home. But if a new Switch shows up and maybe it's 4K or it just is able to run games better, well, we'll trade that Switch in and we'll grab the new one, just adding another one on top of the overall sales numbers. But let me know what you guys think about this down below. Do you think, based on the way the sales are starting to trend for the Switch, it's time for Nintendo to react and maybe release a refresh system? Or should they continue rolling with this one into, I don't know, 2024 or 2025 even, and then launch the next generation device? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.